Duh, I wasn't even in there, man. I'm sorry. I thought I was talking to you, and I was like, "Why aren't you answering me?"
Oh, where are you? Oh, there you are.
Well, I wasn't in. I was in the waiting room.
Oh, well, I can't let you in.
I know, but no,
I was
I was
just
saying something, and you weren't listening. You weren't responding to me. I'm like, dude, why is he not talking to me?
I was just over on the glitch reading the comments from yesterday, and almost every other one of them is saying that Dan's microphone is way louder than the rest of ours.
Hmm.
So we need to make that adjustment. I don't care about the ones who say, Dan, quit interrupting everyone, because that's part of the glitch. I don't mind that part. But if it's a volume issue for people, they're having to adjust it.
Hold on a second. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm live now. So. Man, we just did an amazing interview with Matt Arrett. Wow, was he impressive?
I would agree. Let's when we get that uploaded, that is going to be a must watch. Hello, everybody.
I guess I'm just going to have to make a folder, and I'll give you permanent access to it.
That WeTransfer works really well too.
I'm not using that.
No,
No, I'm just using my Google Drive. Oh, I do have one.
Do I look blurry to you?
I do have one. Yes, you do.
How do we fix that? So it's only on the YouTube.
You need a better internet connection.
No, it's not it, because on the StreamYard side, I look fine. So it's a YouTube thing. You see the difference?
No.
Okay, look at me on StreamYard. No
Okay, so
blurry at
you
all,
are
right?
you already have access to this. But I'm going to go ahead and send you the link again.
Well, I guess I'm going to be blurry today because I can't figure out how to fix it.
You could turn your computer off and restart it. Come back.
We're on the issues, not my computer. The issues with YouTube. If I look perfect on one channel and not on another, it's not a computer problem.
You're not on YouTube. You're on StreamYard.
I know. On StreamYard, I don't look blurry, and on YouTube, I do.
No, you're blurry to me. On StreamYard.
I'm perfectly clear. Okay, let me just step out of StreamYard and I'll come right back.
Hello, Beverly and Tiffany. A little better, but not much.
There we go.
That's better.
Yeah, I'm still a little blurry on the YouTube side. So it's a YouTube.
It's got to catch up. It's got to catch up.
Long day today. You want to tell everyone what we've been doing?
You go ahead.
Well, this morning we had a 90-minute interview with a gentleman who's running for sheriff. He's a constitutional sheriff, and he will be endorsed by Sheriff Mack, and his name is Jonathan Peck. And I am, and now Ron as well, very much dedicated to hope to try to help this guy get elected. And that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. The guy's outstanding. And then this afternoon, early afternoon, we had a 90-minute interview with an absolute fountain of information by the name of Matthew Airhead. We found him online in the last few. Merritt. We've been reading and watching a lot of his stuff. And if I ever say there's one of our videos that must be watched, it would be this one. I mean, we could have gone for hours, but there's just so much information.
We're gonna do multiple videos with him. It's not certainly not going to be the last.
Oh, super nice guy too. I mean, very generous with his time, and even when he's got a way of when he disagrees with you of making it very pleasant and educating you at the same time. So
I was impressed with his answer after class.
Which one? Oh, yeah. What I said we should have done that one live.
Yeah, the topic of the topic after the that wasn't that's not something that not really ideal for main consumption. That's kind of a third rail topic.
Oh, that one. I was talking about the when he tied in Trotsky when he finished up that stuff. That was we definitely wanted to get them. Yeah,
guys, I'm
you're
doing
going
great.
Off into the weeds.
Guys, I'm doing fantastic.
Beverly, Glitch is on. Glitch is live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific.
And Tiffany, it'll be on Untold History. I'm going to be uploading that probably as soon as I get done doing the Constitution class. So you can find it on Untold History. The one we did this morning with the Constitutional Sheriff may be up now. I don't know.
And I will have them both up on my channel.
Yes, that is actually up now. That's up.
Later.
Yeah. I'm in the process. I think I told
someone's
you.
Asking about the glitch.
I'm in the process of taking all the glitches off of my channel. I don't want to have the
You want to finish
confusion.
That thought?
I want to have the confusion.
Well, one of these days I got to get my channel fixed, so it's not 2 channels on Rumble. Just get it down to 1, but I have no idea how to do it. I've been looking online.
We're a little early today.
I thought about starting to do some stuff on Telegram because I've got the War Hamster channel, but I couldn't even figure out how to upload or even put a link in there. So I think I need
Mr. Hatchet.
a remedial course on. And between our shows today, Ron, I had 174 text messages to go through.
174? How's that possible?
Yep. Well, you're probably on about 30 or 40 of them.
Huh.
Meaning you were on a thread where a bunch of them came from.
Oh.
There was a board of supervisors.
Yeah.
There's a board of supervisors meeting, and a lot of my one of my other group threads, a few of the gals were watching that, and they were just doing a play-by-play, and it just blew up my phone.
Guys, I'm doing great from surgery, so I'm already almost back to normal, it feels like. I tried I watched Cliff High, his videos, and he created a product called I don't know, something sleep. And I got to try some, And wow, was that stuff amazing. I tried it last night for the first time. Dude, I slept. I didn't wake up one time. I slept all night. When I woke up this morning about, I think I woke up about 3:15, and I was like, I was alert.
No crabbiness anymore. All gone.
No, I was up. I was alert. I was awake, and I just didn't even. I didn't even go back to bed. I got up and just started doing stuff. Of course, that along with the oxygen stuff is really, really helping. Let me tell you, Darren, 1 second. Because as soon as I got up, and I slept so well, I just went ahead and I went back on his website and I ordered like a year's supply.
You are a prepper.
Hell yeah, I'm a prepper. And that was the first thing I did this morning. I got onto his website and ordered a year's supply. By the way, that guy, Mike Harris, he responded to me and he wanted to see some of my videos. But I think once he sees some of my video work, I think he'll come on. I told him that I was, pretty much right in line with, it's called Pure Sleep Generation 2. Here, let me get the link and I'll just put it in the chat.
So we got another interview later this week with former Libertarian
Tracy. Happy birthday,
candidate, Adam Kokesh.
Yeah, that's right. Here, Darren, here's the link for you. Everybody, today is Tracy's birthday.
Happy birthday, Tracy. Should we have Ron sing you a song?
No, I'm not singing. I'm not pulling an alpha. Nice try, though. I remember things like that, Tracy.
You didn't remember my birthday.
I didn't know your birthday. When's your birthday?
August.
August what?
August 4th.
Mine's August 30th.
Funny story about that. One of my good buddies got trained with Wall Street together. We sat in Manhattan for long hours for like 3 weeks straight. He's also born on August 4th. And he and I became friends. He was a financial advisor out of St. Louis. We stayed in touch to this day.
What year?
For him or me?
What's your birthday? What year? Birth year?
I do not tell my age on air. It's a weird thing. Just don't go there.
Just text it to me.
I'm
gonna guess. I'm gonna put 67 in there. Because you're older than me.
You're in the ballpark, barely. Anyway, so Troy, it was back around 2008. I go, hey, Troy, guess who else shares a birthday with us? He's all, Roger Clemens? I go, yeah, but guess who else? He goes, I don't know. I go, Barack Obama. You could see him just getting pissed off. He was ticked off. Excuse me. but I go, Troy, the difference is you and I can prove it. We actually have it.
Touche.
Yeah.
Tracy, you're not old AF. Come on now.
Hello, sassy two sisters. All right, 2:59. Will Doug make it in by the bell? What do you think?
No.
Predictions? He's been right at 3 o'clock sharp the last few times. He's been getting better. We starting Article 3 today?
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to start. We're probably going to start and finish it.
Ooh, got San Francisco.
What?
Yeah.
East Bay. Nice. Tyson, welcome. We're in SoCal. So we are also dredging through that blue muck, waist high. For you, though, it's probably neck high.
Hey, you want to put your poll up in the chat?
Oh, yeah. Are you new here? No, what is it? Is this your first time? All right, guys. There's a poll. There's a poll in there. It says, "Are you new here?" If you are new here, please say yes. If you are not new here and you've been here before, please say no. To the chin. Only 5'9". Very nice. Man with a sense of humor. I like that.
Sue Ward asked, did Congress approve the judge who can define a woman today? No, not yet. They were deadlocked 11-11 in the committee, which means Chuck Schumer had to use a little bit of trickery, although it's within the rules, to push it out to vote. That'll happen next week, I believe.
You know she's going to get confirmed.
Still possible for an upset.
I ain't holding my breath. I ain't holding my breath. Oh, Tyson, have you ever gone to gun shows up there in Yuba City? Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I probably don't remember you, but because I met like so many people there at the Yuba City event, but definitely.
We got North Carolina in the house. What are they doing to fix the North Carolina elections? That one smelled pretty bad too in 2020.
This actually the Constitution classes technically are a Patriot Streetfighter sanctioned event because work closely with Scott, and he was the one who was doing okay, but you never called me. I don't remember, but he when he went on tour, I kind of took over the Constitution classes because we wanted to continue those, and he couldn't do it from the road. So for continuity, I took over the classes and kind of just stuck with it. Inside the boxes are wheels for my new office chairs. I upgraded the wheels.
Hey, Ron, you and I met at a Patriot Streetfighter event too.
In San Diego.
Indeed.
Shortly before I met Tyler. Or Mike Tyson. Excuse me. Sorry. Sorry, Tyson.
Tennessee.
Don't take that personal. Please.
So Illinois, we got in Illinois. But that friend I told you about who has my birthday, he's from Southern Illinois, Champaign-Urbana area.
That's not Southern, that's Central.
Well, they're from a place a little further south. They call it Champaign-Urbana because nobody's ever heard of. Have you ever heard of Royal?
I've not heard of Royal, but I went to when I was in the Navy. I did my schooling about 10 miles north of Champaign.
Well, the point I was going to make is that the people downstate cannot stand the fact that Chicago's got such a big population and just completely twist their whole state.
Holy crap! He's had a total of 90 days off since April of 2020. Bro, you're a machine. I don't know how you do it. Where's Doug? He's late.
Want me to get him on the phone?
Yeah. Probably trying to find his freaking Dr. Pepper. Yes, I'm sure they do. Possibly. In fact, let me check. Let me check traffic now. That's a good call. Oh, there he is.
Traffic and the internet being off when I walk in my house, and yeah, such is life.
Hello, Doug.
You all right, man?
Yeah, just one of those days.
Did you get your Dr. Pepper at least?
Nope, didn't have time to get one. Didn't have time to go to the bathroom, grab a Dr. Pepper, or get gas. So,
thank God we're doing the judicial branch.
Yeah.
See, you need to have a little refrigerator in there so that you have your Dr. Pepper handy all the time.
I used to, and then no, it was not enough room. I'm in a 9x9 office. There's not enough room for it, so I got rid of it. Gave it to my son.
Okay. Well, on that note, welcome to the Constitution class. We're here
with most of my green screen.
With most of your green screen, you need to move your camera a little bit.
No. Look, see, it's got.
Oh wow, yeah. That's
I didn't have time to put my big one up, so I grabbed yours, and yours is only so wide. You know, the one that you gave me that.
Right. I agree, Tracy. There's always room for a mini fridge.
No, not in here. Yeah. But anyway, all right. Hi, everybody. Douglas V. Gibbs, Mr. Constitution. Article 3, which, I tried to call, Warhamster this morning, and he was like recording some show or something like that with somebody. We were talking to Jonathan Peck, the Constitution, or the guy, the sheriff candidate for San Diego County. I'm very impressed with that guy. Yeah, I am too. I definitely need to start better lines of communication where I'm talking to him regularly. I actually part of the reason why it was a tight schedule today too is I did a class, and then after the class I had a meeting where somebody wants to help fund some of what I'm doing, and I wasn't going to not have that meeting. And then traffic, accidents, you name it, it went wrong. So here I am. Well, if you're coming from Fallbrook, there's always, it is a guarantee you're going to hit traffic in Temecula. Guarantee. I looked it up not too long ago. That area in front of Temecula on the 15 is considered the 5th most congested area in the country. Wow.
It was so much fun there's one positive thing about lockdowns. I was going to my buddy's house in Temecula just about every week, and I was the only one on the road. To be able to drive through Temecula with no traffic, it was so nice. Yeah, I remember when Obama was president and they had the day without a Mexican.
I was telling you about that. Wasn't I saying that the other day? Wasn't I talking about that? Day without a Mexican?
Not to me, you weren't.
Yeah, we had that conversation.
I was in construction.
We literally were talking about that, the freeways 5 days
were
ago.
Great. Yeah, the freeways were awesome because, and I was in construction at the time, and so I was driving into Orange County and stuff, and it was awesome. But anyway, enough of that chat. The people in the chat room and the people listening don't want to hear that. They want to hear about what we're talking.
They're here for the Constitution. Let's get it going.
And just before the 2:15, it suddenly clears up. Crazy. Tracy E. knows what we're talking about.
Well, she's from Horsetown.
Oh, that's right. We've talked about it. Yeah. Between Menifee, Myriad, and Temecula, that whole area. And I remember when I first moved in here in 89, Rancho California Road, which is one of the main thoroughfares through Temecula, Winchester Road being the other main thoroughfare through Temecula. Rancho California Road had one stoplight, and Winchester Road had 2 stop signs when I first moved in. So you big difference now. We went from, maybe 15,000 people in the entire valley to over 100,000 in each of the towns, these 3 cities next to each other. So 250,000 people, crammed into the valley and then some. All right. So Article 3, here's the reason why Ron's so excited is because I'm going to really hammer on the courts. He like me, he can't stand the judges in the courts. Now, don't get me wrong. There's been a handful of judges I've liked that I've met and lawyers too. But when it comes to the legal industry, it's funny because last Saturday, actually last Thursday after my Beaumont class, I had to run over to 590 AM Studios in San Bernardino to pre-record a show that was going to play on Saturday, and then still get down to Carlsbad in time. But I was on the Unite IE radio program, and the host, his name is Greg Britton, Unite IE, and he's a lawyer. So you can now imagine what the conversation was like. We kind of argued a little bit, and it was a tense conversation because lawyers are convinced that the way it's supposed to be is not what matters. It's the way it is. And that's the way it's always been as long as they remember. And so that's just the way you got to do it. And even wanting to go back to the original way is just foolishness. First of all, that's our first argument. Number two, this isn't the Constitution anymore. These pages that the founding fathers wrote, that's not the Constitution anymore. The Constitution is the opinions of a bunch of judges. And they have that power because they've had it since over 200 years, and they're entitled to that power, and they're allowed to have that power. And if you want to find out if something's going to be constitutional, just ask a judge. And then their opinion, their determination of what the language actually means. In other words, let me use that word I really hate. Their interpretation then spells out what it really means, regardless of whether or not that interpretation is in complete contrast to the writings or what the people who wrote it said they meant. So in a sense, we do have two constitutions. We have the written one, and we have an annotated one in the legal system that's annotated by judicial opinion and case law and precedent. Having fun yet, kids?
Mm-hmm.
So now
are we talking about judicial review today?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what we've gotten to in the Constitution is Article 3. Now, remember, the articles, the way they're designed, the way it's set up, it's a nice little outline. So you have Article 1 is the legislative branch. Article 2 is the executive branch. Article 3, judicial branch. Article 4 is regarding the states. Article 5, amendments. Article 6 regarding the federal government, federal supremacy, things like that, which we'll get to down the road. And then Article 7 is ratification. Nice, tight outline. The first three, thus the three branches of government. Once again, the legislature, Article 1, the executive branch, president, Article 2, and the judiciary, Article 3. And the way they wrote back then, they wrote sort of the way you figure out your to-do list. Or hamster, when you make a to-do list, you put at the top the most important thing, the thing needs to be done as soon as possible, correct?
Usually.
Yeah, which is probably cleaning up hamster droppings or something like that. But whatever it is, that's at the top of the list. You put that first, right? And then the next most important thing is second, and so on and so forth. That's the way these guys wrote. So when you look at the order of the articles, then what you find out and you discover through examination and research is they put the branches in order of importance and authority and power. Legislative branch, nothing happens unless the lawmaking process happens first. The executive branch has nothing to execute if there is no law. The judicial branch has nothing to apply to their rulings if there is no law. So the process all begins with the creation of law. Without law, there is no system. There is no government. There is no, freedom, because if there is no law, it's anarchy, and you're on your front porch with your rifle shooting everybody who's trying to steal your stuff because there's no police force, there's no law, there's nothing to stop them, right? So while government can be evil, it's a necessary evil because we don't want to have to sit on our front porch shooting everybody because there is no law. We need law. Law is an important thing. So it all begins with the legislature. Then it's executed by the president. And then when someone breaks the law, then the judicial branch comes into play. Understand something, that laws are made for lawbreakers. Let me repeat that. Laws are made for lawbreakers, because those of us who follow the law, well, we really don't even need the law. We know what right and wrong is, and we're pretty cool to each other, regardless of the law. In fact, I bet you we probably don't know most of the laws that we're probably guilty of, because everybody's guilty of something. But But the laws are really made for lawbreakers, the problems in society, so that there can be a system to make sure that we're not interfering with each other's natural rights. Okay, so that's the establishment of the system. There's got to be laws. The laws begin with the legislative branch. They're executed by the executive branch, and they are then carried out when it comes to punishment and whenever it's broken or whatever by the judicial branch. So the judicial branch then is the weakest of the three. It only comes into play after the making of law, the execution of law, and somebody or something or somehow it's not being followed properly. So the courts get involved. That's their job. Their job is not to make law. Their job is not to modify law. Their job is not to determine whether or not it's good law. But yet we believe all of those things. In the beginning, the courts were considered so weak that the first Chief Justice of the United States, John Jay, had resigned as Chief Justice so that he could take his post as governor of New York because he'd won an election. So resigned, he served as a governor of New York, and while he was governor of New York, there were two other Chief Justices. When the fourth term of when a Chief Justice was needed came up, it was about the same time his term as governor of New York had ended. And John Adams says, hey, we had this election, and Jefferson won. He's going to take over the White House. The Jeffersonian Republicans won both houses of Congress. We're losing Congress. We're losing the White House. I'd like you to be Chief Justice because we need to at least have some type of representation as a Federalist Party mind of thinking, bigger government way of thinking, at least in the courts. Would you like the job? And John Jay said, no, it's too weak of a position. It's beneath a man to hold that position. There's no power. He knew it was weak. He knew it was the weakest of the branches. He knew that there was nothing the courts could do other than apply the law to the cases they heard and then apply punishment as necessary. That was it. That was their total job. So now to get back to judicial review, well, then how did that approach? Let's find out first, what is judicial review? Judicial review is the belief. It is the idea, is the power. They have the power. It's not an authorized power. It's not an authority. Not all powers are authorized. All authorities are, but not all powers. So not all authorities are powers, but not all powers are authorities, in other words. There's this power that the courts have to review the law, take a look at the law, and decide, gosh, it's unjust or it's unconstitutional, or it is just and it is constitutional. And then if they feel something needs to be done with the law, to modify it or strike it down as they deem fit. We see it all the time, do we not? Remember Obamacare? Oh, we're going to go to the Supreme Court to find out if it's constitutional. And then John Roberts decides that what isn't a tax is a tax, and that makes it constitutional, even though that's not anywhere close to what interpretation of the Constitution really said and meant. There's no authority, but nonetheless, that was his interpretation, and we just had to put up with it. It's constitutional, therefore the law stays in place. Nothing we can do about it because the judges, the gods of law, said it's good, so there's nothing we can do about it. That's the idea of what judicial review is, and we hear it all the time. Even folks that are supposed to be constitutionalists or at least constitutional allies say, oh gosh, we're going to find out if it's constitutional. Don't the courts decide that? They do decide that. They have been deciding that, but it's not an authority. They're doing it illegally. Now, let's tell the story now. This is, I can, imagine Ron right now. He's grabbing his milk and cookies. He's ready to kind of sit back on the pillow for the story. He's ready for the, if ever you need to, go to sleep at night, you need a good bedtime story, just call me up. I'll talk about judicial review. But anyway, so the situation is this. During George Washington's presidency, understand, George Washington, there was no political parties. Didn't exist. He's the only president ever elected that was not a member of a political party. Now, your history books will say he was part of the Federalist Party. That's not true. He was a Federalist in the sense that he believed in the federalism of the Constitution. He was not a Federalist in the sense of being a member of the Federalist Party. Washington was not a member of either party or any of the other parties that sprung up about the same time. And in fact, Madison didn't call them parties. He called them factions. And I think that might be an appropriate term. So parties didn't exist. And so Hamilton and Jefferson people were kind of gathering around those two guys because they were the ones that were kind of the leaders of certain ideas, factions. And the idea that Jefferson had was, let's stick with the Constitution, limited government. We love this laissez-faire kind of idea of running our system. Laissez-faire meaning it's, a free market and free, the people are free to do as they want. There's liberty. Government is to be interfere as little as possible, only when necessary. Alexander Hamilton kind of came from a different line of thinking. His line of thinking was there must be a ruling elite. There must be a ruling authority. Otherwise, the system can't survive because people are just not bright enough and not informed enough to do it themselves or to be involved. And if you just have, Hokey A and Hokey B from out in the country serving, it probably won't work well. So you need this brilliant minds of a ruling elite, this ruling authority that knows they're politically savvy, that can run everything. And don't worry, though, it's for the common good. We're good guys. We have the best of intentions. And in order to do it properly, you need a more centralized government. You need to centralize banking, and you need to centralize the legal industry, and you need to pull everything together in this tight little ball and then connect it to all the other tight little balls around the world, such as the centralized systems in Europe. That was Hamilton's idea. What developed out of these two ideas was Alexander Hamilton's party, the Federalist Party. There's nothing Federalist about it, by the way, except for its name. And the Republicans, the Jeffersonian Republicans, what a lot of people like to call them, because if you just say Republicans, people get confused and they think today's Republican Party is somehow related to that, and it's not. So the Jeffersonian Republicans. And so you've got these two factions now that have developed, and they're battling each other. And after Washington's second term, John Adams wins the presidency, and he becomes the only Federalist Party president in the history of this country. But he has aligned himself with Hamilton and the Federalists. And as a Federalist Party candidate and president, and he winds up with both houses of Congress kind of behind him, what they do is they try to expand the reach of government. Under Washington, Hamilton, as Secretary of the Treasury, had already introduced a centralized bank called the Bank of the United States. Under Adams, they worked at other things to try to build up a stronger system where it was a little bit more centralized. The federal government had a little bit more power. But also there was a group and they had every right to be worried about this group, called the Tories. And the Tories kind of had a split allegiance. They were, American in the sense that they were here, they were residents, they might even been born here, but they tended to have at least one parent that was a British citizen. They had these divided loyalties. They tended to be people, the Tories were people, not tended to be, but they were people who still had a loyalty to the British Empire. And there was a concern in early America that these people would try to sabotage or infiltrate the system to force us back under British rule. And so to challenge that fear, the Adams administration, along with the Congress of the time, came up with this Alien and Sedition Act. The Alien and Sedition Act, one of the provisions of that act is you could be arrested and pay a $200 fine, which back then was not cheap. That's a lot of money. If you spoke out or wrote out against the system, against the president, against John Adams' administration. Now, there's nothing constitutional about it. There's this funny thing called freedom of speech. But nonetheless, they decided that if you were to side with the Tories or even speak against the government at all. Why, that was insurrection-minded. That was hate speech. That was rebellious. Starting to sound a little familiar, isn't it?
Just a little.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Did they do a Patriot Act?
Yeah. Oh, they already had a Patriot Act. It was called the Second Amendment. So I guarantee you, if everybody was walking around with a gun on their hips, terrorism would be the last thing we'd be concerned about. But anyway, and so people were getting arrested. This was not popular among the people. One of the people that got arrested was a congressman. His name was Lyons, Lyons. I don't remember his first name off the top of my head. And Lyons, he would write these letters to the editor for I think it was I want to say the Pennsylvania or Philadelphia Gazette it was called. And I mean, it was just scathing against the Adams administration. So they arrested him, threw him in jail, and he owed his $200 fine. And then the election in 1800 came up. And in the election of 1800, Jefferson won. It was a crazy election. It wound up going to the House of Representatives. And because no one was getting the majority when it came to the Electoral College. I mean, because electoral votes, first of all, remember, it's not winner take all. And I mean, John Adams was getting electoral votes. Aaron Burr was getting electoral votes. Jefferson was getting electoral votes. And there was like two others. I can't remember the names off the top of my head. Calhoun, I think, was one of them. But, I mean, you had like 5 or 6 ways that the electoral votes were going. Nobody got a majority. So, according to the Constitution, the election of the president would go to Congress, and the House for the president and the Senate for the vice president. And well, actually, I take that back. That's the newer amendments. It just went to the Congress in general, I think, back then, or the House back then, actually. And then whoever got president, and then everybody else, then it went to the Senate. So it did go to the Senate, but it was just a different process. But anyway, get back on track here. So what wound up happening is nobody was getting a majority still, even when the House of Representatives was voting for president. They conducted 36 votes. No one won. And then Congressman Lyons got released from jail. And he took a seat in the House. And he convinced his fellows of his state to vote for Jefferson. And Jefferson won the 1800 election by vote in the House. All because of Lyons.
And he was from Delaware, was he not?
I can't remember the state off the top of my head. I don't know. I don't want to say that might be right because I don't remember off the top of my head. All I remember is that Lyons. There's so much information up here. Sometimes certain details get lost in the mix. But if it was Delaware, if you've done the research, I'll say okay, but I don't know for sure. But anyway, so Lyons. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I just remembered that it's stuck in my memory because it's where Biden was from, and when we were having those conversations last year about, so that's why it's stuck in my head. I'm pretty confident that's true.
Okay, very good. And they didn't have a lot of representation. I can't remember if it was just him or if there was one other person. I think there was like 2 or 3 representatives for his state. I don't think Delaware only had one, but nonetheless, because of Lyons, Jefferson won. All right, so Jefferson won. It's November. And it's not going to be till March that the new administration comes in. And it turns out that the Federalist Party not only lost the presidency, they lost both houses of Congress. They are in a scramble because they went from being in full power to no power like that. And they just know Jefferson's going to just reverse everything that they did along with his allies in Congress. And they're running scared. So they decide, you know what? The way to maintain some semblance of power is to embed ourselves into the courts. But we're not just going to embed ourselves in the courts because right now the courts are kind of split. We need to pack the courts by creating more judicial positions and then just putting our people in there so that we have the majority of the courts. And so that's what they did. And so this act that would create all these new judicial positions was passed. And man, they were confirming the judges as fast as they could through the Senate. Now, the process is that once someone is confirmed with a majority vote, matter of fact, Brady and I, Warhamster and I had this discussion the other day about just yesterday, I think it was, we were talking about this, how there was one individual saying it was 2/3. No, it's 2/3 for treaties, but it's a majority vote for confirmation. And so they were doing it as fast as they could, confirming these people. Once someone's confirmed, that doesn't automatically make them the judge. They still have to get their commission. The commission is issued by the president, and back then, and it still is, but it's done differently now. Back then, it was delivered by the Secretary of State, or at least his staff. And so the Secretary of State of the time, he's delivering all these commissions to all these new judges so that they can have control of the courts. And Jefferson, seeing what they're up to, actually has a quote that says that the opposition has retreated to the stronghold of the courts where it'll be more difficult to dislodge them. Great quote. Nailed it. Jefferson did. But anyway, so as this is going on, as it turns out, not all of the commissions get delivered. And Jefferson takes office, and his Secretary of State is James Madison. James Madison's like, hey, man, I got the stack of commissions here. President Jefferson, what would you like me to do with them? And Jefferson says, discard them. They are illegal, null and void. Do not deliver them. So Madison didn't. One of those judges that had been confirmed but never got his commission, because the first Secretary of State under Adams, and we'll get to who that was in a little while, didn't get it delivered in time, and Madison didn't deliver any of them. He decided he would sue Madison for not delivering his commission. The gentleman's name was William Marbury. William Marbury sued James Madison because he didn't deliver his commission, and we have what's called Marbury versus Madison. It makes its way to the Supreme Court in 1803, and the Chief Justice at the time, since it wasn't John Jay, it was a guy named John Marshall. He wound up taking the job. And John Marshall believed, as Hamilton did, in a bigger government, centralizing everything, but he also believed in something else. He believed in something where the judges should have more power, like John Jay believed, but even more so, and Marshall was willing to take action to make it happen. So Marbury versus Madison is before the court, in which John Marshall is the Chief Justice and Marbury wins. Now, Marshall, while he believes the court should have more power, one thing he understands is it has no enforcement power. There is no enforcement arm for the courts. There never has been. There still isn't. The enforcement arm of the government is the executive branch, the president and his agencies, departments and agencies. So when Marbury wins the case, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically the message to Marbury from John Marshall is, you won, you should have gotten your commission, but the enforcement arm is the presidency, and it's the president that said not to deliver it, so good luck in getting your commission. Now, here's where the twists now start getting interesting. First of all, that Secretary of State I was talking about under John Adams that didn't deliver them all, didn't deliver all the commissions, his name was John Marshall, the guy who became Chief Justice later. Wait a second. Kind of like a little bit of a conflict of interest there, don't you think? Absolutely. This is the type of junk that's already going on. The ink on the Constitution's not even dry yet. And you've got this garbage going on. So anyway, Mr. Marbury now, he doesn't get he's not going to get his commission, even though he's awarded that he should have gotten his commission. And that becomes a whole different situation. But then John Marshall doesn't stop there. John Marshall, in his written opinion, and by the way, John Marshall was such a tyrant that when he became Supreme Court Chief Justice, he said that if ever there was a court that was a win or a loss, and he was the primary opinion for or the dissenting opinion, he was the only one allowed to write an opinion. The other judges couldn't. That's how much of a tyrant he was.
And he sat in that position for how many years?
36 years.
Uh-huh.
And the tail end of that time was when a guy named Abraham Lincoln was going to law school. That's a whole different story. We'll get to that someday. But anyway, so John Marshall, in his written opinion about Marbury versus Madison, slips something in that today is still having an impact. He slips into his opinion this idea called judicial review. That's what we call it. He didn't call it that. But what he writes is, and he's essentially right, but then he goes off onto La La Land. What he says up front, which is correct, is that any law that is repugnant to the Constitution is not a law. That's correct. But now the question is, what do you do when that situation happens? Now, in the true constitutional sense, what would happen is it would be recognized as not being a law. The states would not abide by it, and the Congress would be advised it's not a law, and then Congress would be expected to repeal that law once the judges sent them the opinion that it's not law, that it's unconstitutional. Judges say, hey, we think it's unconstitutional. We wrote it down in an opinion. We're sending it to Congress. Congress, you should take action. Then Congress can decide whether or not the judicial branch is right or not. Now, if the judicial branch is right and the Congress refuses to repeal said unconstitutional law, then it's up to the people through the House and the state legislatures through the Senate to replace the knuckleheads that put that law into place so it can be repealed eventually for proper reasons. Also, when that law was written, it was also up to the president when he was to sign it to determine whether or not it was constitutional. If he thought the law was unconstitutional, he should have vetoed it. So there's all kinds of checks and balances, but none of the checks and balances when it comes to stopping a law or getting rid of a law, if it's unconstitutional, none of them include the courts in any way, shape, or form, except that the courts can give a judicial opinion saying, hey, this is our opinion. We think it's unconstitutional. Okay? So now we've got this idea planted in Marbury versus Madison that the courts can do that. They gave themselves the authority through a court opinion, a judicial opinion. Now, let's stop there for a second. All constitutional authorities come from where? The language in the Constitution. So either it was a part of the original language in the first 7 amendments, or that language is added or changed by an amendment, which includes what? State ratification. So any power that the federal government is to have, or any part of the federal government is to have, must be obtained through the process of the legislature and the state legislatures or the state conventions, or through a convention of states where the states do it themselves without the federal legislature. But in no place can the Constitution be amended, changed, added, or power be given simply because the courts say so. It's not in there. But that's what they did. Now, I'm an acquaintance of Dr. Larry Arnn, the president of Hillsdale College. And he came on my radio program when I was on a previous station. I wasn't on KMET yet. I was on KCAA. So I believe it was 2012, 2013 when he came on my program. He and I have a mutual friend here in Southern California. And that mutual friend introduced us to each other. And Dr. Larry Arnn was on my program. And back then it was only an hour program. It wasn't 2 hours. And I was excited, man. I mean, Hillsdale College. I mean, Rush Limbaugh was touting Hillsdale College. Hillsdale College was seen as the only quote unquote truly conservative, constitutionally based university out there. And, to have the president and the dean of that, well, that's just awesome. So I get him on the program and we start talking about the Constitution. And what followed was an hour-long argument over 3 issues that he disagreed with me on. He supported the idea of implied powers. I disagree. I believe that all authorities given to the federal government must be expressly enumerated. He disagreed with the idea of nullification. He didn't believe that the states can nullify laws. Well, if they're the writers of the Constitution through their delegates, and they are the parties of the contract, absolutely they're the final arbiters, and they can nullify. And then the last one was he supports judicial review. Excuse me, let me grab a water.
83% of the people are not new.
Sorry about that. I'm sitting here with a dry throat here and trying to talk, and it was getting worse and worse. And I had to grab my water, and it's not at my desk because I didn't plan ahead of time. I thought I would, have a Dr. Pepper with me. Much better. But anyway, so here we are now with this situation where the courts have decided they can do this, and Dr. Larry Arnn's saying, hey, and I'm good with it. What? And so we're debating this, and I'm going to tell you what shut him up, what silenced him. Do you agree, sir, that the Constitution is all about limited government, limiting the powers of the federal government? Well, absolutely. Anybody that has any sense, even those who don't understand the Constitution much, realizes that limited government, limiting the powers of the federal government, is a part of what the Constitution is about. So, sir, I continue. How is it limited government when a part of the federal government, the federal courts, the Supreme Court in some cases, are deciding whether or not federal laws are constitutional? Because to determine if they're constitutional is to determine if the federal government has that authority. And so what's happening is the federal government, through their courts, are determining what their own authorities are. How is that limited government? Did you hear that silence we just had? That dead air? Normally, that's not a good thing on shows. But at that moment, it was a beautiful thing. He had no clue how to respond because the truth was obvious. So now we've got this thing, this judicial review idea that exists. And 9 times, in 9 cases, John Marshall's court specifically used it to increase federal supremacy, federal power. What I mean by federal supremacy is the idea of federal supremacy, according to Article 6, is that the federal government's supreme over those things that they are authorized to be supreme over. So in other words, it says this Constitution and the laws of the United States made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties are the supreme law of the land. So they have federal supremacy in those situations. If a law is not constitutional, federal government doesn't have supremacy. But one of the things that John Marshall pushed was that the federal government is supreme on all things. It's a hierarchy. Just go up the ladder, and at the top of the ladder is the federal government, and at the top of that part of the ladder is the judicial branch. And by the way, while we're at it, this contract is a firm union, and states are bound to it and cannot leave. Therefore, if they do leave, well, the federal government can do whatever is necessary to hold together the union. That's what he taught. Remember one of those students I mentioned earlier?
I think you were what was Lincoln, I think is what he said.
Yeah, Abraham Lincoln went to law school while that was the teaching, and it was a tail end of John Marshall's time as Chief Justice when Abraham Lincoln was going through law school at that time. So guess what got planted in Mr. Lincoln's head? Federal supremacy, firm union at all costs. Federal government has authority to do whatever it can to make sure the union is held together, including military invasion and occupation. Just saying. Once again, I don't want to get too far down that road. I don't want to take that rabbit trail too much because that's something we're going to talk about more when we get to Amendments 13, 14, and 15. But I do want to get you thinking about stuff. I want you to start connecting what was going on then and later and before and all that, because it's all connected. There is stuff that's going on here, even today, that connects all the way back. From the banking systems, the legal system, to whether or not we're a firm union or a voluntary union, taxation, all of it. It's all connected. And guess what? What we're going through right now is the same old junk. And just listening to the story about Adams and the Alien and Sedition Act and Judicial Review and John Marshall and all of that kind of gives you a clue, right? Hasn't really changed a whole lot. It's the same war, the same battle for control over this system. Because America decided to do something that was unforgivable. America decided to unforgivably think that it could do its own thing individually without being a part of the bigger collective. That we could coin our own money, that we could have our own legal system, that we could take care of our own business and do it without a ruling class or ruling elite, but let the consent of the governed be a part of that process. How horrifying. How dare we? And so we became a target early on. So the stuff you're seeing today, it's just a continuation of that same stuff. Different names, different technologies, same war.
Sue says we've been on the road to hell since the very beginning.
Yes, absolutely. And it all began, in my opinion, or at least the crux of it all began with Alexander Hamilton. I am not a fan of Hamilton. Now, I'm not going to say he was a complete enemy. He was a patriot. He loved this country. He fought in the war. He was Washington's scribe. But what his ideas of what we should be were completely off target, completely against what was intended. And in fact, one of my favorite books, and the only book that I tell people to buy more than my own. So I have 8 books out there. And by the way, if you guys haven't been buying my books, start buying them because there's a lot of good information in them. But there's one book I do recommend more than my own. Only one. There's a few I recommend almost as much as mine, but there's only one that's more than mine. It's called Hamilton's Curse by Thomas J. DiLorenzo. And it really opens your eyes not only about Hamilton, but about what was going on at the time. And how this war was getting its launch. It was emerging at that time. It wasn't a whole lot different than what it is now. Now, real quick side note, because I could tell by body language, I got a couple people who'd like to say something here. But what's funny about that book is it was reading that was given to my daughter when she was in college. And I thought, this is an interesting book. Here's why I was shocked when she got this recommended reading for an assignment by her college professor. Because when I got the book and looked at it, and before she read it, because I told her, because I was going to help her with a book report, so I needed to read it too. And on the cover is a blurb recommending the book by Ron Paul. Wait a second, college professor Ron Paul. I'm confused. But it turns out to be one of the best books I've ever read. All right, gentlemen, I've kind of seen with body language, both of you are kind of either adjusting your seat or have something to say. So I'm opening the floor.
Sue Hamilton's Curse by Thomas J. DiLorenzo. You can find it on Amazon or wherever. I know some of you guys don't like Amazon. I ought to offer
my own store. I'd just bulk buy a bunch of those and just offer them myself.
Actually, I don't want to limit you to talk to exclusively. If you're going to read anything of DiLorenzo, don't limit yourself to Hamilton's Curse. He is an amazing author.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the comment. I was going to say I was going to also recommend the book he wrote called The Real Lincoln. Is that it? It's The Real Abraham Lincoln.
The Real Lincoln.
Yeah, that is. And if you don't have time for the whole books, DiLorenzo is all over YouTube, gives about hour-long speeches about these exact topics. So you can get his version of Hamilton's Curse in 60 minutes or in 40 minutes if you watch videos 1.5 times speed like Ron does.
Well, there's also an individual by the name of Ray DiLorenzo, writing for Canada Free Press like I do. And I'm wondering if there's a relation. I'm going to assume there is. I just came across that like yesterday, the day before. I got a kick out of that. There's a Ray DiLorenzo.
I'd like to say something here, just completely off, completely, really not, just really more in reference to reading. Somebody sent me a meme the other day, and it's a guy reading a book on stacks of books with stacks of books in the background. And it's very apropos for where we are in this world. It says self-educated people cannot be fooled by institutionalized propaganda.
I resemble that remark.
I love that.
That's why a lot of people get excited when they hear that I'm self-educated about what I talk about. I'm not poisoned by what professors had to say. I've talked to professors, but I've not gone through all these classes. I think I've taken 2 history classes at the college level, and both of the educators were of like mind. Let's put it that way. When it came to a foundation, constitutional foundation, all that. But I'm self-educated, man. This is stuff I've learned because I decided I wanted to learn it. And I've done the research, and I've read stuff that you don't have to read. You don't have to. I mean, I was showing someone the other day. It's not easy grabber. I just grab it to show you. I've got, for example, a book I just bought. It completes my collection. It is the Congressional Record. It was printed in 1906 from 1774 to 1787. I'm sorry, 1791, I mean. No, 1789. Congressional Record. That's the Continental Congress, because the Federal Congress began in 1789. That's when the Constitution was officially in play. And I already have all the Congressional records from 1789 on. But I didn't have a Continental Congress until now. I found it and was like $30. I was telling you about this, I think, a week or two ago, Ron. And I'm all excited. But that's the kind of stuff I read. I read that stuff so you don't have to. Now, if you want to, it's out there. And as Warhamster and I were talking about yesterday, hey, man, if I'm wrong, I need to know. So I have no problem with you guys saying, you know what? Doug said this. I'm going to check it out. Go for it. In fact, let me know. I'll tell you what my resources were if you want to check those out. And I'm sure you can find other resources. Just understand that resources that are based on today's political foundation won't agree. Go back to original sources. Don't read some journal that's accredited by all these professors of, the grand leftist university. Go back to the original stuff. Read that, and then we'll talk. But
I just Jenny, I just posted the link to the Amazon page where it's available.
Yeah, it's a good book, and I'm glad you found it for her. All right, now that I've done all that explaining, let's actually read Article 3 and go through it now. And I've only got about 6 minutes, so we'll finish it next week. But we'll get started because now I've given you some history. I've given you some background. You kind of know the details of what kind of got the ball rolling when it comes to judicial review. And now I want to spend a little time just going through the language, and we'll explain as we go. Now that you know the background, it's gonna help you understand this stuff a little bit more. So Article 3, Section 1, the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court. Now, if you remember at the beginning of Article 1 and Article 2, I pointed out that word vested. Here it is again in Article 3. It says that the judicial power is vested in the Supreme Court. In other words, it is granted, it is legally transferred. The federal judicial power is legally transferred from the states to the federal judiciary. And the word vested means that it's irrevocable. It belongs only to them, and they can't give it away. Okay? So whenever you have, and the word vested, remember, is used when it comes to legislative powers, executive powers, judicial powers. So when you have one of these branches trying to, use the powers of another branch, they are violating that. The word vested is the key component in this idea of a separation of powers. So the judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. So the Supreme Court's created by the Constitution. The lower federal courts are not. They are created by Congress. They are established. They are designed. We have circuits, district courts, all of that jazz, because of Congress deciding that's how they wanted the court system to be. Remember, we don't have 3 co-equal branches. If we did, the judicial branch would have created themselves, I suppose. No, the Congress, which has got the hierarchy here, created the lower courts. Now, for those of you with a God complex, you'll really know this. If you can create something, what else can you do with it?
Take it away. Destroy it.
Take it away. You can destroy it. You can dismantle it. So when, for example, the Ninth Circuit or something like that, Ninth Circus, starts acting in a manner that's completely unconstitutional and out of whack, Congress has the authority to say, you know what? We're going to shut it down. We're going to impeach all the judges and absorb that district into the 8th or whatever. They could do that if they wanted. They're the ones that created it. Understand also, judges can be impeached. They are not in office for life, period. It says in the Constitution, and let's continue reading a little bit here. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior. So that means that if they are exhibiting bad behavior, they can be impeached. Congress would impeach them. The House would impeach, and then it would be a hearing with the Senate, and the Senate then could remove them from their office once they're impeached. So when I say impeached, that doesn't mean necessarily remove from office. That's the charge. But once they're impeached and it goes to trial and they're convicted, they can then be removed from their seat. Judges can be gotten rid of in that manner. But here's the thing. What does good behavior and bad behavior mean? I mean, if the judge is operating in good behavior, well, they're not breaking the law. We know that much. And so if they can be kept in their seat for good behavior, it means they can be removed for bad. What is bad behavior beyond breaking laws? How about unconstitutional rulings, decisions, and activities and opinions? If you are a judge and you keep ruling unconstitutionally, or your opinions are unconstitutional, or you're acting in a manner that's outside constitutional authority, is that not bad behavior? Is that not maladministration of your office? And does that not then become an impeachable offense that you should be removed from your seat for? I think so. I wish more of that was going on. All right, I got one more thing to read, and then we got to end because we got like a minute and a half before the bell rings. And then it says, and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation, because they're serving their government, so it's a compensation, which shall not be diminished during their continuance in office. You know, if you don't rule the way we want you to rule, we'll take away some of your pay. No, can't do that. Their pay, their compensation cannot be diminished while they're holding office. Thank you, Samuel. The Constitution is not a living document. It is the law of the USA. Thank you. All right. Now, when we come back next week, Article 3, Section 2 and 3. And here's your teaser. One of the things we're going to talk about is called the Exceptions Clause. If you want to look it up, you can. And the Exceptions Clause gives Congress the authority to make null and void unconstitutional rulings or opinions. Did you know that Congress could do that? See? The judges aren't gods. Okay. Any comments from you two gentlemen?
No, not really.
No, just Marbury versus Madison has always been one of my favorite stories. So I'm in hamster heaven. Haven't gotten my favorite little
droppings all over the place.
He's on his wheel. Just his wheel's actually just moving slowly.
It's going slow right now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Later on, he'll go so fast it'll jump off of its hinges or off of its sprocket and go rolling across the room. Warhamster, good to see you, my brother. We will see you in person on Thursday. And
Indeed.
Ron, Warhamster gave something to me that I was supposed to give to you that I had in my pocket the last time I saw you, and I went to reach for it a couple times and never gave it to you. So I'll probably swing by on Thursday and give you what is yours.
Okay, but depending on what time it is, I have it's my first follow-up appointment with the doctor in Torrance. So, and then my appointment's at 9:30. I should be home by the time that you get done.
Okay. Well, if not, we'll figure it out.
If worst case scenario, what I could do is I could when I finish there, I could just come over to Marla's.
All right, very good. Yeah, definitely pay us a visit. Have some lunch, and I've also got other things going on Thursday too, but we'll figure it out. So I think I have a 3:00 I think on Thursday, right?
I'm not sure.
I'm talking to Warhamster. Warhamster, was it 3:00
on Friday? You mean? I think Friday's
Friday.
1:00.
That's Friday,
that's
not Thursday.
Yeah, that was going to be too tight of a window on Thursday, so we moved.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember we changed it. Yeah, I've got so much stuff going on, and I can't find my schedule, and I'm writing stuff down now. I can't find my schedule. I got to find my schedule and get back to writing stuff down. But anyway, good to see you, gentlemen. Chat room, good to see you. Those of you who are watching afterwards, you can watch live Tuesdays. 3:00 Pacific, 6:00 on the right coast, which isn't so right because there's no such thing as all right, except unless it's anarchy. Oh, that's a discussion for some time.
Have you ever seen the John Birch Society thing about right and left?
Yeah, and in fact, they explain it in the way that I explain it. But what I have come to realize as I've explained it is, if the Constitution is dead center, everything else pretty much is to its left. The only things to the right of the Constitution is pure democracy and anarchy, and those always wind up as oligarchy on the far left.
Right.
So really, a right wing doesn't exist. It's either the Constitution or you're to the left.
Well, yeah, but the whole concept of right and left isn't necessarily. It's really more where the ideologies sit in the House.
Right, and they're all to the left.
Well, no, I'm just saying you have the center aisle.
I understand. That's based on the French system.
Yeah,
and that had to do with whether or not you believed in change, whether or not you believed in keeping the monarchy, whether or not you believed in keeping the state church, which means you were religious and all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. That's not our system, though. Our system is based on 100% government versus zero government, and the Constitution is dead center. And right now in our system, every single institution is to the left of the Constitution. The only things that are to the right of the Constitution, in other words, less centralized government than what the Constitution would have, would be pure democracy and anarchy. And in both of those cases, they always wind up on the left. So really, they don't exist. You have oligarchy and you have a constitutional republic. So in other words, you've got the dead center with the Constitution, or you have the left. There is no right. There really isn't a right. If someone to call me a right winger or whatever is inaccurate. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm dead center.
I'm right there with you. I think Warhamster is as well.
Well, he has a different way of explaining it, and he and I have been kind of having that conversation over the last couple of weeks. He's more of an up-down. I'm more of a center-left,
I just think human interaction is far too complex to limit the conversation just a one dimension, right or left. I think you need to add at least one more dimension, and you flip it on the axis to vertical, and it basically says the same thing Doug's saying. It's just adding a little bit different way of viewing it.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying the same thing.
Yeah, we're in full agreement. We just don't necessarily
present it the same way.
Put our little models with the little beads on it in exactly the same way.
Yeah, it's just a different proof.
Mm-hmm. Well, gentlemen, I will let you go, Mr. Gibbs, because I know you got to get on the road.
San Juan Capistrano.
Yeah, have fun with that. And happy birthday, Tracy. I'm not going to sing you happy birthday, but happy birthday.
Oh, Tracy's got a birthday. Okay, so she's got about 2 weeks on me. 2.5 weeks. I'm coming up on the 23rd.
That's Doug's way of reminding us.
No, so what are you supposed to do? Have a party for you or something, Doug?
No, I just mentioned I'm coming up on the 23rd, so I'm going to be 21 again.
21 plus 80.
Yeah. Yeah, my grandkids are convinced I'm over 100. And then, you know, they think that's why I know so much about the Constitution, is because I was actually there. And then I joked with them one time and I said, well, you know, I've been there even longer than you think. I mean, I've been there from the very beginning. And one of them goes, you mean like creation? And I'm like, well, whose idea do you think it was? Of course, you know, they don't get the joke, but
gentlemen, I need to go. I've got I need to go. I've got something that I've got to do. So I'm gonna skedaddle. I'm gonna leave here, and you guys can.
Obviously, we'll see you guys next week. Good to see you, Ron. Thanks for hosting this. Warhamster. We'll see you later on in the week.
Ciao, see you guys. Have a good night. Goodbye.